If you're like me, you know buying beer every weekend can seem kind of expensive. So I'm going to show you how to make beer right in your own kitchen. It can seem really complicated at first, but it's actually only 4 simple ingredients and requires a little bit of patience. Let's get started. The 4 ingredients are water, malt, hops, and yeast. Thankfully, it's easier than ever to just buy a kit online that'll give you everything you need. Today, we are going to make a wheat beer, but you can choose whichever flavor you like when you get the kit. I recommend starting with a 1-gallon batch so you can get used to the whole process first. That'll make you about 10 beers, which can last you a few weeks, or if you're like me, a few hours. Our kit comes with our fermenting vessel, our fermenting cap, some sanitizing powder, and everything we'll need for bottling. First, we're going to heat 1.5 gallons on medium heat. Now we're going to add the malt extract. Do not add this when it's boiling. Unless you want to be like me and spend the next 2 hours cleaning your stove, do not add this when it's boiling. As soon as it's up to a boil, we can add our hops. The boil time on these are going to depend entirely on the kit that you go with, but generally it's around 45 minutes to an hour. Now that our boil is done, we can move on to cooling it down. There are plenty of ways to do this, but we're going to go with the simplest one. Just fill your sink with ice, let your pot sit in there for around 30 minutes to an hour. While the beer cools, we can move on to the most important step in making beer, sanitization. This does not mean your typical dish soap. Your kit is going to come with a specific sanitizer used for making beer. Anything our beer comes in contact with at this point needs to be sanitized. I'm going to add the sanitizing powder to some warm water and make sure all of our equipment gets in contact with it. Our beer is really susceptible to bacteria growth, and that can make our beer have some off flavors. And who would want to ruin your beer after a hard day of drinking? Work. Once our beer is cooled, we're going to transfer over to our sanitized fermenting vessel. Now we're going to add the most important ingredient in making beer, yeast. Once we've pitched our yeast, we're going to add our cap on top of the vessel with a little bit of water. Yeast creates alcohol and CO2, so this is going to keep bacteria out of the beer, but also let the CO2 release out the top. Next up is the worst part of making beer, the waiting. Put your beer somewhere for around 2 weeks in a dark spot in your house. We want it to be dark because light can sometimes give your beer some off flavors. All right, so we're almost there. You've waited 2 weeks. Now it's time to bottle. Remember, we've got to sanitize everything first. Anything that touches the beer has to be sanitized. I'm going to do the same process as we did before. Now that we're sanitized, we can transfer our beer to our bottles. Then we add the sugar caps and then simply cap our bottles with our bottle capper. The remaining yeast is going to eat the sugar, convert it to CO2, and then carbonate the beer for us. Now that our beer is bottled, it is ready to drink. The way you know it's carbonated is you'll hear a hiss from the bottle. No, it's still flat, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is put this in the same dark spot for another 2 weeks, and it's worth every bit of wait, I promise. Once you've waited 2 weeks, our beer is finally done. It's light, it's refreshing, it's delicious. We made it right at home, and most importantly, for a fraction of the price. Cheers. I actually don't even remember the line. Line! What is the line?